you all the latest and greatest information and hot topics surrounding teams in the Washington metropolitan area, also known as the DMV. So, if you are checking in, we got to go through some housekeeping items. If you are a returning watcher, hello, 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 welcome back. And if you are new to the family, welcome. We're so happy to have you. We go through a couple of housekeeping items at the top of the show. This is a live Bowie television recording. Everything we say and do here will show up on your television screens. Verizon Channel 11, Comcast Xfinity Channel 77, each and every single day from 1:30 to 2:30, and then on the weekends during the noon hour. If you're also just checking in, you know that I always say one of the housekeeping items is simply this. You got to say hello to Mama Waller. Drop it in the chat. You got to say hello to Pops Waller. Make sure you drop that in the chat as well. If you're watching from the Facebook live stream, make sure you hit that love button and share this show with your DMV, well, it's weekly, but DMV Sports loving family and friends. If you are tuning in from the YouTube stream, hit the thumbs up, the bell. You can still drop the link to whomever you would like to take part in the live discussion. So, of course, you could always, if you're catching the replay, hello, 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 and thanks for catching up and checking in on the show as well. So earlier I did put on my post that this was going to be a kind of something that I haven't done in a very long time, and that is choose your own adventure. And choosing your own adventure is really around, what do you want to talk about? What are some of the topics in DMV sports that you say, you know what? This is a topic that I think everybody should want to hear more about. And let's talk about it. Now, we see Mama Waller has checked in. It's so much talk around rebuilds. And I sometimes say, and you've heard me say, okay, the only way you're going to fix a sports team or fix an issue is that you just may have to rebuild the whole entire thing. You might have to start from scratch. And when you're talking about a new ownership group, of course, we're talking about the Commanders or any type of changes in leadership. We know that that's what's happening with the Wizards. We know that with the Nationals, they are, we're in talks of selling the Nats. We know kind of course, because that hasn't actually happened yet. There was at one point almost like a fire sale. Everyone was getting traded, and that stung. But one of the things that I've been talking about and thinking about and really sharing with DMV sports fans is, can this area really take a true rebuild? Can they really take one? Because I didn't mention the Capitals in that one, but we know this last season, it was the first time the Caps didn't make the playoffs in ages. And we know that Alexander Ovechkin, in all of his greatness, isn't getting any younger. So at some point that will happen as well, where we may see just trickling around all of the teams. Even if we go to the collegiate space, if you are a Georgetown Hoyas fan, check in, love button, fire emoji. You know how hard it is and how hard it has been to kind of see the decline in that basketball program. And not really knowing and understanding how is it going to change? What does it really take to change? And it's for certain just one of those, it's just, you don't know. Let's just be honest. You never really know what the right answer is. And when you have new leadership coming in, it especially is difficult because sometimes, like we've heard, and this is the DMV Sports show, so I'm talking all across the sports in DMV and just the topic of rebuilds, because it's something that is either going on currently or it's going to more than likely happen soon. And I see that the Seawall chaplain, Mazdak, has jumped on as well. And if you are just tuning in, this is the Culture from the Couch series, the weekly DMV Sports update. I'm your host, Seawall. This is a live Bowie television recording. Hit the love button, share this show, because tonight we're talking sports team rebuilds. Does it work? How does it work? I'm more so wanting to get into the, can you even really deal with a sports rebuild? Right? So we catch it, like circling back to the topic of, can you even really deal with a sports rebuild? Everyone is, hey, the commander sees, I'm going across everybody. And then I'm going to the command. We all know the commander season has not turned out like anybody thought it would. There's some new owners in town. They have an opportunity to try to correct things. We also know that the new owner, the majority owner, Josh Harris, I've shared this with you all many of times, and they sometimes joke and call him the process, and entrusting the process. And that if you look at his other sports teams, the Philadelphia 76ers, the New Jersey Devils, it's certainly a process, and at times still is. If we look at the Philadelphia 76ers, we already know that just this past NBA season, Josh Harris had to part ways with his head coach because that team didn't go as far as he expected them to in the time that he expected them to get there. So I'm looking at, and based on what Josh Harris has already been preaching and teaching and saying about patience, and sometimes to go forward, you have to take a step back. I've asked Commanders fans, are you able to go through a true rebuild when it's from top to bottom? The Josh Harris ownership group brings in all of their own people. Sometimes you can't start completely from scratch. You got to have a few pieces. But if there's some pieces of collateral or assets and players that you have that you say, okay, well, we want to trade a few players to get another impact player, or we want to trade a few players and get draft picks. What does that process, what does that time look like? But once you hear the leader say, oh, we got to teach we got to talk, and I want to assure you about patience. And again, understanding how he's done things in the past with his other sports teams. It's like, okay, this might take some time, but how much time and how much of a grace period does the Commanders fan base have? Right? We can say the same thing with the Nats fan base. Okay, everybody got traded away. How much time do you really have? And do you even really want to sit through to watch it? And you may still sit through it nonetheless. But how much time is too much time to go through a rebuild? I have been chatting with Wizards fans, and I've been seeing the reaction of Wizards fans just across the area. And the fan base seems to be so disgruntled about where the Wizards are currently, and have been disgruntled. It's the top of the season. And I always say the leaders have spoken. I'm going to go back even to like a Josh Harris. What does the leaders have been saying? They're talking patience. They're saying rebuilds are hard. You'll have to trust that process. You have to trust what's happening. You have to trust what's going on. And you'll have to, and everyone will have to be on board to get through it. Yet, leaders being very open, honest, and transparent, fans don't care. They're like, it's almost unheard of having to rebuild, but the leaders actually told you the truth about a rebuild, and you still said, don't care, doesn't matter. The roster is right there in your face, so you see what you are getting in terms of a team this year. Yet, you know, when the ball drops, when the puck drops, whatever, however you say it, for anything across these sports, fans are still not going to be happy. And I see Mazdak's comment here in the chat where he says, I need to see immediate improvement. And I'm going to go through some of the other responses and it was specific to Commanders fans, but just the general sense of, can you do a true rebuild or not? Matter of fact, let's jump there now to see what some of the comments were that came back. Let's read through them together. Calvin Billy Boots says, these days, rebuilds don't take several years like in the past. Just look at how quickly San Fran and even the Eagles have become powerhouse teams, and we've witnessing the Lions do the same, not in just 2.5 seasons. I think we can give the team a good 2 to 3 seasons to rebuild. And at that time, we should at least be competitive in contention to win the division and get into the playoffs and contend for the Super Bowl. Mazdak again. Mazdak says ASAP. Mazdak said ASAP. BJ Lucas says true rebuild. Frank Smith Jr. says ASAP because I'm not getting any younger. Bundle King Bennett told me true rebuild with all new front office, coaches, and new players in a lot of positions. James Weldon says, I'm down for the ride. Been riding this long. Besides, when they finally get it right, it'll feel good, not hopping on and off the bandwagon. 2 years of good acquisitions can get you to the top. And another comment here from Samuel Jackson. For me, I think a 3 to 5 year plan is grace for new ownership. I'd say that's fair if the focus is data driven and we see progress within that frame. But I ain't buying, he already done told you, he's not buying anything. Buying something else is out for him, okay? He's not buying anything else for at least 2 years. Okay. So, as Mazdak has here in the chat, if we're not moving forward, where are we going? So, hey, and Mazdak is going off in the chat. He said, I've been here long enough. I'm ready. And if you're just tuning in, you're watching from the Culture from the Couch series. This is your weekly DMV Sports update. I'm your host, Seawall. This is a live Bowie television recording. And tonight, because this show covers all of the DMV sports, we're talking sports team rebuilds, right? We know that the Wizards are going through a rebuild right now. We know that the Nats are rebuilding. They're doing something. Over there. But we know it's been a couple of years since they've made some changes, right? And we know that there's talk about a Commanders rebuild. And what does that look like? What is too long? What does it mean for you? Share more in the chat whether or not a rebuild is what you really want to see. Here's what I think. This is just my opinion. And if you're just tuning in, love button, Share the show with your DMV Sports loving family and friends. Drop in the chat your comments on whether or not you think you can sit through a Washington Commanders rebuild. Here's the thing, and I know that there's already talk. I see Nasdaq is a season ticket holder. So we know that current team president Jason Wright has already sent out the message to season ticket holders that yesterday's price is not today's price, and it's going up 8 or so%, I believe, 8 or so% increase on season tickets. And for the product on the field, you're not real sure what you're paying for, right? And now the money is going up. They want money. I see Nasdaq, he's educating as a season ticket holder. They used to want all the money in April. Now they want more in January. So it becomes a when your money is being invested in it, you want to see a return quickly. You need to see something. You can't see this again, is what you cannot see. And that's what I want to hear from you all. Is it, and Nasdaq has already spoken. So drop your thoughts in the chat on if you can really go through another rebuild. I'm going to use my clues from what I've seen from other area sports teams. Point blank period, I don't think, while I may believe and think that what Josh Harris has shared so far in terms of patience and all of those things is, hey, it's hard to win professional football games. It for certain is, but I do think the reality is in this area and with this fan base, I don't think the fan base is going to even be able to deal with another rebuild in this town that's going to take years upon years. I do think there needs to be some immediate change. I do. I think I just think so. And I see this comment here from Bernard. I can go through a rebuild from the couch, but paying for season tickets is going to be tough. Like, and that's just the thing. I think there needs to be an immediate change. There needs to be a way. And I'm going to go back to the comment that I posted about what Sam Jackson said about, hey, but I'm not buying anything for 2 years. And there has to be change. There has to be an immediate change. There has to be an immediate change. I'm not. I understand true rebuilds, but I don't think this fan base is going to be able to take a true rebuild. Now, I'm not saying that they have to make decisions based on the fan base solely, but because there are teams that have actually made changes, at least within a couple of years. I don't think the 3+ years thing is going to work. I mean, it can work, but I don't think it's going to be too tough. It's hard. It is hard. And in that regard, with a rebuild, then you have to understand which players are you going to keep? Who even wants to stay for a rebuild? Who even wants to go through that? Because if they haven't been rebuilding since the team has been here, then what have they actually been doing? And we've listed off teams previously, right? And I see there's one in the chat as well from Mike Patton that says the Texans, because yes, they made a change within a year, right? And they've made a change that you've already seen some improvement. We don't know where they're headed, but one key thing about it, they have a head coach that understands principles in the now, and he comes from an excellent coaching tree, as well as they found the quarterback. So for Commanders fans, or not even Commanders fans, the Commanders ownership group, they're going to have to ask themselves Is Sam Howell the guy? Is he the guy? Is this how we're rolling? Because improvements start with your offense. This is just a league, and you all have heard me say it time and time again, where this league is just, it's high-powered offenses. You have to be able to score. Now, there's certain times where defenses prove to you and they show you all the time that defense still matters, and being able to stop your the opposing team from scoring absolutely still matters, and it does. But everybody that's going somewhere, everyone knows who the quarterback is. So I'll drop that question to you all now, and you all let me know if you think, is Sam Howell the guy? Has the ownership group said, okay, we can do something with this guy. We got to get him some help, the offensive line, because in front of the quarterbacks that are the guy for their team, they got a pretty vicious offensive line. They have a pretty vicious offensive line. True rebuild, who's going to stay through that? Immediate impact, you still have to make some very smart decisions. And in order, again, to have that immediate impact, you got to be sure about your quarterback. Sure. And you have to draft and make excellent moves in free agency to build your team immediately. I'm going to give you an example. Earlier, I believe it was Calvin Billy Boots' comment that made the comment about the Eagles. 2 years ago, or was it last year, where I had a lot of Commanders fans get mad at me because I said, oh, the Eagles are running, they're going one place, and that's to the Super Bowl. They've made it very clear. Where did they make it very clear? They made it very clear in free agency, and they made it very clear in how they were drafting. That is exactly what the Eagles did. Then I said they're for sure winning the division. Absolutely going to win the division, and they are on their way. They have made it clear by the moves they have made. They're making a move now, right? They could come out like that, but they had Jalen Hurts already. They knew who the quarterback was going to be. When they made that trade for AJ Brown, when they did, they made some moves 2 offseasons ago. Not this past one, the other one. Then this year, you saw it again. They do make the Super Bowl and lose, and then what do you see them do? Get better. Oh, but you gotta have. I'm real big now, and some of you all have heard me say this when you engage me in conversation. I said, you know what? I'm big on players. I'm big on coaches, super big on coaches. But you want to know where my interest has lied here in the last few years of going to the combine, really understanding and seeing truly how the process works from the inside out and how decisions are made. I've really gotten myself into, I want to know who your scouts are. I want to know who your talent evaluators are, because that's who is going out here and finding your Micah Parsons. They're finding your Jalen Hurts. They're finding your AJ Browns. They're finding, who has the next Trent Williams? Who can spot him out? I'm being serious, right? Because that's somebody you need to go and get, and you don't have, and it's no time for to wait for them to develop. I think one of the spaces and places where this current coaching regime for the Commanders may have taken a more old school approach to this is, we're going to get good character guys, good ball players, and we're going to turn them into who they wanted them to be on the field versus who they are. And I think that logic has to go out the door. If I'm with the new ownership group, if I were to be with them or to be able to speak with them or talk to them, I'm saying straight up, who's your talent evaluators? Who are they? Find me the guys that found whoever who are your favorite players. Drop in the chat if you are watching from the Culture from the Couch series, the weekly DMV Sports update. You still have time to share the show with your DMV Sports loving family and friends. And if you're watching the replay, hello, and you drop your answer to this as well. Who are your favorite players in the league? And whoever your favorite players are in the league today, I want to know who found them. Because your talent evaluators, your scouts, that's some unsung hero stuff right there. It really is. These are the people that's finding these players and these diamonds in the rough. I want to know who's finding them. And I want them on my team. I want the top players. Who found them? Or who is the next excellent talent evaluators? That's really where you have to go with this. For sure. Seriously. So I just say this, Commanders fans. Ask yourself, can you sit through another rebuild? Or are you kind of like, I'm not going through a rebuild? I mean, of course, you're still going to watch. Although, small plug, at Bowie Television, we have, you know, Baltimore Ravens coverage. And listen, I'm not saying be a Baltimore Ravens fan. I'm not saying that. But I am saying, up the Beltway, there's the Baltimore Ravens, and it's at least something to compare it to. It's at least something to compare organization to organization, coaches to coaches, position groups to position groups. It's something to compare it to. Why not? It doesn't hurt to watch. And you all hear me say all the time to please make sure you're watching other teams play. Because if you're watching other teams play, then that allows you to understand exactly where your team is in real life. Watch them play the whole entire game. Check it out. Seriously. Just watch it. Because if you're watching, I share with you all, drop in the chat your favorite players in the league right now. I also am going to share this with you all too. If you are really watching other teams play, then how do you think the Commanders are performing right now? Where do you think they really are in comparison to across the league? And so sometimes, and we're almost at our time, and I see comments here. I see Joe Harris has come in. He said, we're going to lose EB. Hello to Law White as well. You can still hit the love button and still share the show, you all. Understand rebuilds. I do. But I also understand knowing your environment. Like I shared with you all the other day. We know who the Commanders are playing for the next 3-4 years, right? I mean, at least the next 3, I think. The opponents are there. You have it, right? You need to prepare, and your staff needs to understand and be prepared to beat the teams on your schedule. There shouldn't be a need to have to develop a player. You get them for what they're good at and what they're great at. Of course, you're going to always help. You're going to always coach. You're going to always prepare. But gone are the days of having to spend, in my opinion, 2 and 3 years developing a player. Okay. I think, I'm not saying next year they need to win the division. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is they absolutely need to, starting next year, need to, they have absolutely, they need to be winning some football games. Okay. At least be competitive, at least try. And I see some comments coming in about what happened. Team gave up on Ron. We talked a lot about that toward the end of the Washington Commanders update on Monday. Make sure you check out that replay because I definitely went through from my observations where I saw things start to go left and where they may have ultimately left the building mentally. So you had, I mean, hey, Mac Patton brought up the Texans. We saw the Eagles do it. We saw the Eagles do. We did. We've watched them, but that comes with stellar talent evaluators. Your scout team has to be amazing. And I tell you, I'm gonna say it again. We are hard on coaches. We are hard on players, but the unsung heroes are the scouts. I need a talent evaluation team that is out here on the road all year long, and you got to bring me the best of the best. Scope them out. You already know who the opponents are. Get them in here and get them in here to win football games. Don't get them in here and now we want to change their position. We want to change their style. We want to change their technique. No, get them in here to do what they're great at and they can win at the professional level. Now everybody's overthinking. They don't know what they're doing. Everybody's confused because now you're trying to make them be somebody that they're not. So again, I just don't think, and for those that are just joining, you might want to share whether or not you can go through a rebuild. Can you go through a rebuild? A true one, top to bottom, start from scratch. I'm gonna go back to the quarterback point because y'all didn't ask this question. Answer this question. Do you think Sam Howell is the guy? Because typically, I mean, hey, the Texans, they found their person. They got the right one. They picked, they did very well. They picked, and of course, an offensive line that is extremely serviceable. You got to protect the quarterback. It has to happen. And they got their person. They got their person at quarterback, and I believe they got their person at head coach as well. Right there together. Right there. And you're already seeing a difference. So, I'm not saying, okay, then they're going to the Super Bowl. Now, like I said, the Eagles already had some pieces. They didn't have to go through a complete rebuild, but they made it very clear where they were weak. They went out and got the best players in those positions. They got better. And that's how and if anything, when you all watch my show, you're going to learn something, I hope. Love button, fire emoji if you feel like you love or you learn something. And I hope you love it too. But get those talent evaluators to get me the best players at those positions and let's move. Because it is, it is what it is. I see comments coming in about my question regarding Sam. He's good enough for me to draft a left tackle in the first round. We're going to always go back to the fact that this past year, the Commanders did not get an offensive lineman in the first nor the second rounds. They beefed up the defense. You all heard me talk about this on the draft show and the draft recap. And when they made moves in free agency, what they also said out loud was that they were happy with their offensive line pickups. So if you all did not know that was said, or if you all forgot that was what was done in rounds 1 and 2, I reminded you, or I shared some new information. If I shared some new information there, drop in the chat. That's new news to me. They were absolutely said they were happy with it. Question about Sam Howell, it says, nope, either he holds the ball too long or the plays take too long to develop. Joe Harris says Sam is the guy. When we have an O line, you will see he is the guy. It definitely has to work in tandem together. Oh, offensive. I mean, you all of the top, and you get the top quarterbacks in the league have offensive lines. Strong, strong across the board. Across the board for that. And I will tell, I said this on Monday. I see some names that didn't, maybe you didn't watch the live. So if I'm repeating myself, maybe you watched it later. I'm gonna say this: 1 and 2 problems this year. 1 and 2 problems. Number one, from my perspective, the defense disappointed. Period. The defense disappointed. Straight up. 4 years, you got who you wanted, you paid who you wanted, and this was the result. That was issue numero uno, in my opinion, the defense. Okay. Issue number 2, offensive line. One and 2. Or whichever way you like to spin it, those were the top 2 issues. And then you may have a coaching staff that plays not to lose versus playing to win. 1, 2, and 3 in my book. Because I said it from the beginning. You all heard me share it on this show. And you have to shout out Darrell Lee Owens Sr. Straight up high five him, love emoji to Darrell, because Darrell is my right hand in all things Commanders and many other of the DMV Sports as well. He's been holding it down. You all make sure you're subscribed to Bowie TV on YouTube at Bowie TV at BCMC TV Maryland, where you can get all of Bowie TV, a lot of Bowie TV's content there, especially all that we're doing with the Commanders and with the Baltimore Ravens as well. Shout out to Karita Parks for holding that work down so amazingly. So 1, 2, and 3 problem is what that is, right? But hey, y'all, this off season, and Darrell and I were talking about this, Commanders fans, heavy thing that I'm about to say this. Heavy thing. And that is, the Commanders have been bad for the majority of these last 30 years. They've been pretty bad. We know the previous ownership and how they made decisions. And what we're seeing are remnants of that. I shared with you all years and years. If you all remember me saying this, I'm going to say, hey, let's be for real about something. Very honest about something. Ron Rivera was not brought here to win football games. He was here to attempt to change the culture because the owner was in trouble. That is what happened. Because in real life, why would you necessarily want a coaching regime that you just actually beat? You just beat them. So you've been brought in to change the culture and win some football games. But you were brought in, your main priority was to change the culture. That storyline is old. It's tired. Everybody's tired of hearing that. Because winning helps to change your culture, for sure. And sometimes your team, your staff takes the posture and the position of the leadership. I've had this conversation in many leadership development settings where it's what you want your organization to be known for. What you want to be known for is how you show up. So if I'm a leader, I'm the president of Bowie Television. Let's just put it out there. I'm the president. So the energy that I want and what I exude, it has to rest in my board, my leadership team. And then when the producers and the staff see how I move, and then they see how we move, they should understand whether or not they can move along with us, or if they want to be a part of this, or they can also understand if this ain't for them. I need to be somewhere else, because that's what leaders do. And whether or not we realize it or not, whomever is the leader, the team takes the posture of. So if you're not really animated, if you're not really showing passion, well, what do you expect everybody else to do? I'm not saying you got to do that, because that's probably not your style. And that's okay. Being for real, right? But what do you want to be known for? And that's what this ownership group is going to have to remember. They know what it was like to win around here. They talk about it all the time. They grew up the street. But what do you want to be known for? Because I know they probably tired of bringing their family to the games and having to watch this. Everybody, they got to be tired. I said it on Thanksgiving Day. I said, oh, Lord, oh, my God. Magic Johnson's got his whole family wearing Commanders gear. And we know how that day turned out. So what do you want to be known for? And the ownership group has to establish that, and they have to establish that vision. And they have to get people on their staff that understands the assignment. If the assignment is Super Bowl or bust, that's what you tell them. If you say, hey, I want to win a Super Bowl this year, that's your bag. That's your thing. Now, I'm not saying go David Tepper out here. I'm not saying do that, in a year, and anybody mid-season, people not doing what you want to do, you fire everybody, then you firing everybody every other year, because then there's no opportunity for continuity. But when people understand what the assignment is, and they understand that your assignment is winning football games, and if we got to have some tough conversations along the way in order to get us there, then you have to be the person that is exuding, I want to win. I want to beat you. Extremely competitive person. And I want people to know that about me, if that is who you are. Now, if you are calm and collected, and you're going to watch what you say at all times, and you expect everybody else to keep it calm and collected, then that's what you do. That's why I'm going to say it again. I was okay with Curtis Samuel getting put out that game. I said, well, good for you. So nobody's going to knock out Sam and just think it's okay. Sometimes you got to see the good guys get bad. And I was all right with him getting put out that game. I really was. I was like, well, good for him. Good. That was a good sign that there's life there, and people care there. Can I do that to my quarterback? Cool. I want to address this question right here. Do you think there's something wrong with Terry? No, I don't think there's anything wrong with. I don't think there's anything wrong with Terry. I think that Terry is not getting the football. Now, if perhaps they're utilizing Terry in a certain way because they believe that defenders are always going to go his way because he is the best player out there on offense, but I don't think there's anything wrong with him. But let me say this. This is, I hope I answered the question, DJ. Let me say this too. This goes back to good people, good character, and be a good person, be a good human, be of good character. But let me tell you something. You might have to tell somebody, give me the football. Now, to be fair, because I've done this on the show, at this point, all the games are running together. There was that one game where they went to Terry twice in a big moment, and he dropped the football both times. Now, the first time, Darrell engaged me. He said, hey, I could see it clearly from down there on the field. I think the sun was in his eyes, But the second one, we don't know. But hey, everybody said give Terry a pass because that doesn't typically happen. Well, listen, hey, again, what's your posture? Do you want to win football games or not? You got people eating turkey legs, doing very impressive celebrations when they play you. At this point, this is done, right? But I'm talking about for the future. You got to say, even with your players, I don't want anybody thinking it's okay that you can eat a turkey. I don't care if it's Thanksgiving. You should not be able to be beating me that bad where the game is not even over. You're over there eating turkey legs. That is an issue. That is a challenge. And that is also a display of the level of respect that they have for you, because at that moment in time, they were beating you so bad that they could take a break and start on their Thanksgiving dinner. Why wait? This game is over. We're just here so we don't get fined. Essentially, we can't just leave the field. What are we going to eat? Even if you don't win the football game, I would like to feel like you got to play us until it's over, because we got you on the ropes just that much. And that is what the ownership group has to consider. Do you have time? Is this going to be 3 to 5 years? Because when I asked the question, no, I'm talking 3 is long term in the NFL now. Do you have 3 more years to see some results? Or can you start seeing some immediately? And I believe that you can start seeing some immediately if you get some evaluators in there and people who are very strategic and understanding and knowing the big picture in the landscape of the NFL, really taking a good hard look at your schedule, because everybody has access to the Commander's schedule. Everybody has access to everybody's schedule because it's public knowledge, and that knows this is how we're going to do this to prepare. It is possible to see a difference starting next year, a positive difference starting next year. It's absolutely possible. I believe that. Because a true rebuild and tearing everything down and having to start all the way over, I just don't think this fan base can deal with it. I just don't. I'm seeing the reaction to how things are happening with the Wizards, and even when leadership groups are honest about the process, it is not, it's too much. It's too much. Well, what did I share? So on Monday, I shared with you all that I will be off next week. That's what it was. This is a bye. So I'm not going to do a show on Monday. I don't think, unless something, happens, but I'm probably not going to do a show on Monday. I'm not going to do one on Thursday. So I'll be back after the LA game. Are there any more questions for me? And I see comments here. I'll stay on a little bit since I'm going to be out next week. But I'm always around. You all make sure you're following the pages and paying attention. I'll answer a couple more questions if you all have them, since I'll be out next week. In this day and age, you don't have to do a complete rebuild. And DJ, that was one of the things we talked about earlier, where it doesn't have to be complete, but then you got to figure out who wants to stay. Who are you going to stay? What players are you building around? Which ones are you keeping? Which ones has the right mentality to still keep fighting? Who can still keep fighting? But that also, again, I'm going to go back to even me saying that goes back to taking the posture of your leadership. If they don't appear to be fighting with you, So it's going to be interesting to see how the leadership team, the ownership team, tackles this in the off season. I thought it was going to be a quiet off season. And I've said this to you all. Hey, nobody expected this. Nobody expected this. Not this bad. Not this bad. This is totally shocking and disappointing. And requiring of some, I'm sure some tough direct conversations of what happened, but I don't know if any of that has transpired, quite frankly. All right, you all. Look, I think we are at our time then. I didn't see any more questions come in the chat. You all, thank you so much for watching like you do each and every single week and keeping up with all of the hot topics going on in the DMV. You all, again, this is from the Coaching from the Couch series, the weekly DMV Sports update. I am your host, Seawall. You can catch this show on Bowie Television every single day. Verizon Channel 11, Comcast Xfinity Channel 77, 1:30 to 2:30, and on the weekends during the noon hour. Listen, you all be well, be safe, and I'll be talking to you guys again in a week or so.